Meanwhile, this is from a week ago, and we're still hearing about hostage negotiations and the potential for a ceasefire to be ironed out, a temporary one for a hostage exchange. The ones that the Israelis are holding in their prisons, the ones that Hamas are holding ostensibly, in their tunnels. Here is Noam Dan, the cousin of an Israeli hostage, Ofer Calderon, on Khan 11, I guess, which is the Israeli state-owned TV channel. Now, I don't know anything about Noam Dan, but to the extent that she is credible in her assessments, the Israeli-owned TV channel Khan 11 suggests that she is. This is all in Hebrew, and so we'll read off her off of the translation.
Can I also just say before we do get into the clip, so I don't have to pause it to explain, she's going to reference something in this clip called the Hannibal Directive, and for people that may not know, that was a practice done by the IDF until it got it faced some scrutiny in, I think, around 2016. That is about basically not really caring essentially about the death of Israelis if it comes at the cost of the military operation against Palestinians. So that...
Well, specifically about hostages, right? Like, yes. You don't want hostages, IDF soldiers to be taken hostage. If you see them being removed from a battlefield and taken hostage, they would just fire on the vehicle taking them because they don't want the leverage that having a hostage would give the people they're fighting.
Exactly.
And again, you combine this argument with the reports, the different reporting that Netanyahu has no interest really in getting the hostages back, and certainly no interest in getting them back in a timely fashion, and the multiple killing by Israeli forces of hostages. This, in fact, I think we may be seeing at least an attempt by the Israeli government to make it seem like they're engaging in these negotiations, not the very least because of media reports like this. Go ahead. Noam Dan.
Shalom.
Hello. It's okay. I'm also from a bereaved family. I have from everything. We talk here every evening about the negotiation with the families of the captives. In the White House, these are the facts. They said yesterday there's a discussion. In Israel, they say there is no discussion. There's no offer on the table. Explain to me how you see the situation. I know you're sharp and have a good perception. They are enacting on us the Hannibal Directive. Explain. That's all. The government of Israel, the cabinet of my country, my prime minister, my defense minister, they are enacting on my family, on our citizens, on civilians taken captive from their homes, the Hannibal Directive. They continue the fighting even though it needs to be stopped. They're talking with us about the pressure that is helping. That is supposed to help, but we see that not only it doesn't help with anything. If it was helping, they wouldn't be withdrawing forces. They would be discharging the Golani unit. They wouldn't be taking soldiers out of Gaza. And on the other side, we hear about our captives that are getting killed, losing their life, murdered by Hamas due to the military pressure. Itai Seversky, just yesterday, we were all notified. But we already know more than that from the analysis of the IDF regarding what's happened there. And we understand, and Ron Sherman and Nick We understand that we are killing. It's a very difficult statement, and it's not easy for me to say it. We didn't manage to report on it yet, but yes, there's an IDF pathological that said they don't know what they died from. I talked this morning with Dr. Maayan Sherman, Ron's mother. She's very angry. Yes, if I think I was in her place, the word angry would not be the best fit. But we are roaring. And yet they are still enacting on the citizens of Israel the Hannibal Directive. My government is annihilating them. Allow me to be blunt. Because in our terms, it's blunt to say this to you. Listen, there is no deal on the table. There's no one to talk to. There is no... And this is said by the ministers, including the ministers of the cabinet that are willing to go very far for a deal. Yes, I can tell you that you're not blunt, you're just wrong. You are wrong and misleading. There is a deal, there are several offers for a deal, 2 right now, but it doesn't matter. These things you're saying are based upon the briefings, the hostage and missing families forum. The forum is one of the branches through which Nitzan alone communicates with us. Through this, we learn about the policies. Okay, I mean, I think that's enough, right? I mean, so the guy's trying to push back on how do you know these things? And she's been explicitly told by Israeli officials that there's deals there, and it's just not happening. And this type of thing is now, you know, on Israeli television.
Yeah.
And I got to imagine it puts pressure on Netanyahu.
It's brave of her, I would say, you know, within the context of what is allowed to be said in Israel, for her to say that publicly, right? Because we've talked before about how sealed off the Israeli population is to like really what's even happening in Gaza. So this is just a brave call out of her government for sure. But you know, as the clip goes on, you hear like how incredulous the rest of the reporters are there, or the anchors there, even though the Hannibal Directive was like widely reported on, and the Israeli government had to say that they were it was going to be defunct going forward because of pressure on that front. But why is the United States not covering it in the same way that you're hearing that stuff in the Israeli press, honestly?
It's been the case. That's been the case since the beginning. I mean, it's not to say that, we just had yesterday on the program a Palestinian lawyer living in Haifa, Diana Boutou, and she reiterated that, there's a lot of problems with Netanyahu, but, the vast majority of Israelis want to essentially flatten Gaza. Right. But there's a significant portion of the Israeli population that desperately wants the hostages back. And the idea that the Israeli government is, has an interest in elongating this conflict, which necessarily means don't rescue the hostages.
Exactly.
Is I think it's unclear how much the Israeli population.
Yes, the idea what's not being communicated in American press is the lack of sincerity of like the Netanyahu government in their proclamations about saving the hostages. That is being clearly communicated, much more clearly communicated in the Israeli press, not, humanization of Palestinians. That's not being communicated. But that needs to be, even though our media is so pro-Israel, something that begins to trickle into the coverage, because that's the reality on the ground.
I mean, it would have helped those hostages, frankly, if we didn't have this massive, these months where we're told that the people who want a ceasefire are opposed somehow to safety for people who are held hostage, when in fact, it's the people who are supposedly bombing in the name of hostages who are killing them.